One of the most painful parts of healing is realizing how different your life could have been. Not because you weren't capable, not because you weren't worthy, but because pain interrupted you before you ever had the chance to fully become yourself. Some people are not only grieving relationships, they are grieving time, lost confidence, lost innocence, lost years, lost opportunities, lost versions of themselves. They are grieving the person that might have become if life had not hurt them so deeply. And maybe that's the hardest part, looking at your life and wondering, who would I be if I had been loved correctly? Who would I be if I had felt safe? Who would I be if trauma hadn't shaped so much of me? Because healing is not just recovering from pain. Sometimes healing means mourning the life you thought you would have, the version of yourself you never got to meet. Welcome back to the Daily Uplift Official, where we talk honestly about healing, growth, emotional recovery, purpose, and becoming who you were meant to be. And today we're talking about something deeply painful that many people feel but rarely know how to explain. The hardest part of healing is grieving the person you could have become. If this message finds you in a season of rebuilding, I want you to stay with me until the end. Because somebody watching this needs to know your story is not over just because life wounded you early. Let's talk about it. Most people think grief only happens when someone dies, but grief shows up in many forms. Sometimes you grieve the childhood you didn't have, the safety you never felt, the love you deserved but never received, the years trauma stole from you, and sometimes you grieve yourself. You grieve that confident version of you that never got to fully develop. You grieve the dreams you abandoned because survival became more important than purpose. You grieve the emotional freedom you never experienced because anxiety, fear, trauma, or dysfunction shaped your identity too early. The kind of grief is heavy because it's invisible. Nobody sees it, but it lives quietly inside people every day. Pain changes people, especially pain experienced repeatedly. When someone grows up emotionally unsafe, they adapt to survive. Some people become hyper independent. Some people become people pleasers. Some shut down emotionally. Some become afraid of intimacy. Some consistently overthink. Some struggle to trust. And over time, survival mode starts feeling like personality. You stop asking, who am I really? And start asking, how do I avoid getting hurt again? That's what trauma does. It shifts your focus from living to surviving. And many people spent so much time surviving, they never got a chance to discover themselves fully. One of the hardest realities in healing is recognizing how much time people stole from you. Some people lost years to depression, years to toxic relationship, years to fear, years doubting themselves, years trying to earn love they should have received freely. And when healing begins, anger sometimes shows up because you realize I deserved better. I shouldn't have carried all of this alone. I lost so much trying to survive. And honestly, the anger is understandable. Some people are exhausted not because they're weak, but because they've spent most of their lives emotionally fighting battles no one else could see. There's a version of you that existed before fear took over, before betrayal, before rejection, before abandonment, before survival mode became normal. A version of you that felt free, creative, open, trusting, hopeful, and healing sometimes hurt because you catch a glimpse of that person again. You realize I was always capable of becoming more, but trauma buried parts of you, not permanently, but deeply. And some people mourn because they wonder, what if I had been supported instead of wounded? What if I had been protected instead of broken? What if I have grown up feeling safer? Those questions hurt because they touch lost personalities. Let me say that again. Those questions hurt because they touch lost possibilities. Some of you are too hard on yourselves. One more time. Some of you are too hard on yourselves. You judge yourself for not accomplishing more, for not healing faster, for struggling emotionally, for being behind in life. But you're measuring yourself without acknowledging what you survived. You were carrying pain while trying to function. You were surviving emotionally while still trying to show up for life. That matters. And maybe no one else has ever told you this. The fact you're still here after everything you endured says something powerful about your strength. Survival might Survival may not have looked impressive to others, but it was still strength. Healing is painful because it forces you to feel what survival mode helped you avoid. When you're consistently surviving, you don't have time to process emotions deeply. You stay distracted, busy, numb, disconnected. But healing slows you down enough to finally feel everything: the sadness, the loneliness, the disappointment, the grief. And many people mistake this stage for failure. They think, I was doing better before. No, you were distracted before. Now you're becoming aware. Awareness hurts before it heals. One of the most painful truths in healing is realizing you cannot go back. You cannot relive your childhood. You cannot undo the damage. You cannot reclaim every lost opportunity. That really hurts deeply. But healing begins when you stop trying to rewrite the past and start deciding what you want your future to become. Because while you cannot change what happened, you can decide what continues. Pain may have shaped you, but it does not have to define your future forever. Some people struggle because they compare their timeline to everybody else. They see people who had healthy support systems, healthy parents, healthy relationships, and they wonder, why did life feel harder for me? That comparison can create bitterness. But hear me clearly. Your pace makes sense considering what you carried. You were trying to heal while others were simply developing. That changes everything. Some people learned confidence early because they were encouraged. Others spent years trying to recover from environments that damaged their self worth. Be gentle with yourself. You are not behind, you are rebuilding. And that's important. Healing is not about becoming the exact version of yourself that trauma interrupted, because life changed you. Pain changed you, experience changed you. The goal is not to erase your story. The goal is to become whole despite your story. Wow. The goal is to become whole despite your story. And honestly, some of the deepest wisdom, compassion, and strength people carry comes from what they survive. Not because suffering is beautiful, but because healing creates death. Some people talk about their lives as if everything meaningful is already over. No, you still have a life ahead of you. You still have purpose ahead of you. You still have healing ahead of you. You still have joy ahead of you. And maybe you won't become the exact person you once imagined, but that does not mean your future can't still be beautiful. Some flowers grow after the storm. Some people become stronger after breaking. Again, some flowers grow after the storm. Some people become stronger after breaking. Some lives become more meaningful after rebuilding. Don't let grief convince you your story ended too early. Many people try to skip grief. They try to stay positive consistently, stay distracted, stay numb. But unprocessed grief does not disappear, it waits. Unprocessed grief does not disappear, it waits. Healing requires honesty. And sometimes honesty sounds like, I'm sad about what I lost. I'm angry about what happened. I mourn the years pain stole from me. That honestly matters because suppressed grief becomes emotional weight people carry for years. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Some people are not only grieving lost years, they're grieving mistakes they made while hurting, the opportunities they missed, the relationships they damaged, the choices survival mode led them into. But listen carefully. You cannot hate yourself into healing. You cannot shame yourself into growth. Healing also requires self compassion, not excuses, not avoidance, compassion. Understanding that wounded people sometimes make wounded decisions. And growth begins when you stop defining yourself only by your lowest moments. You're not the only person pain created. You are also the person healing is creating. Now that matters because healing introduces you to parts of yourself trauma tried to bury: your peace, your voice, your confidence, your softness, your purpose. And maybe the future version of you will not look exactly like what you once imagined, but they may still become someone powerful, someone wise, someone emotional free, someone deeply compassionate, someone healed. And at the end of the day, this hardest part of healing is often grieving the person you could have become, the years you lost, the opportunities pain interrupted, the safety you deserved, the version of yourself you never fully got to experience. That grief is real. But hear this clearly. Your life is not over because pain shaped part of your story. You are still growing, still becoming, still healing. And while you cannot change the beginning of your story, you still have influence over what comes next. Don't spend the rest of your life mourning who you might have been while ignoring who you still have the ability to become. Now, if this message spoke to you today, I want you to remember this. You are allowed to grieve what pain took from you, but do not let grief make you forget there is still life waiting for you on the other side of healing. Drop a comment below. What part of yourself are you trying to reconnect with during healing? And if this video encouraged you, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the family here at the Daily Uplift Official. Because here we believe healing is possible even after deep pain. And remember, you may not become the person life originally planned for you to be, but you can still become someone beautiful, whole, and deeply powerful. I'll see you in the next video.